Okay.
And there, so forth and so forth, all the way down the line until the sinkhole showed up, and then the understanding of what caused it and who caused it. At that point in time, then you have someone to sue. I mean, you can't pick someone out of the air.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if you can go for that direction to try to decide on a.
Well, I can tell you that within 4 days, I think that's right, I think my numbers are right, within 4 days of the sinkhole developing, there were lawsuits filed, so some lawyer out there figured out pretty quickly who to sue.
Right.
So that
But
shouldn't be a problem.
There was a specific time frame there that he
Right.
determined that, you know.
I have a question. Has the case in federal court been declared class?
It is not.
Because if it does it affect the statute of limitation date?
I'm going to tell you what my opinion is, but you need to talk to a lawyer. I mean, that's essentially legal
We don't want
advice.
to get a lawyer.
I know you don't, but the problem is I can't give you legal advice. I mean, I know that it's difficult in your situation. You don't want to get a lawyer, but I can't give you legal advice. And so I'm just not, I don't want to, and I'm not going to answer that question.
That's not a
It is a
legal
legal
advice
opinion,
question.
yes ma'am, it's a legal opinion as to what the effect the filing of a class action or the declaration of a class, the certification of class has on the statute of limitations or prescriptive period. That is a legal opinion, and I'm not going to provide it. Yes, sir.
Are you an attorney?
Yeah, well, we jerk you into this too.
Gary, the only thing I can tell you is this, and I've told this to many, what's that?
How can you start that date on August 3rd when this thing is ongoing? It's not complete.
You bring up, look, let me tell you something. The only thing I can tell you is that any litigation is an adversary process. And I think the issue Mr. Myers is having now is that any of you end up in litigation with Texas Brown, he will take a position that's pro-Texas Brown and adverse to your position. And that's the way the system works. So what I've told people that have called me is, although you may not want to hire an attorney now, it may be to your benefit to seek an attorney's advice, get a consultation with an attorney, discuss those issues. May want to pay somebody to do a little research on your behalf about prescription dates, continuing thought theories, when it developed, whether or not a class action suspends or interrupts the prescription date. Those are all, they're all provisions that provide for classes that interrupt prescription dates, etc. But you may need to have your own independent attorney evaluate that for you and at least give you some advice to that effect. And I think Mr. Myers is difficult, and he should not be providing you advice, because I can tell you, he may say, oh yeah, don't worry about it. But then you file a petition on a certain date, he may very well file an exception or prescription saying you filed it too late. Then you'll say, well, Mr. Myers, didn't you tell me on this such and such a date? So, in fairness, he represents Texas Brown and will take a position adverse to you if you end up in litigation with him. So, to that extent, I wouldn't, if I'm you, I wouldn't rely on his advice. Not to suggest he doesn't know the law, but he doesn't represent you.
But
So,
let me ask you this.
yeah.
I know for a fact our attorneys have contacted Texas Brown's attorneys, and Texas Brown's attorneys are not moving. They're sitting on their hands. What are you to do in that situation?
Well, all I can tell you is, if your attorney contacted these folks and they haven't responded or returned their call, maybe
Well,
he
they
can
been
answer
talking,
that.
but they don't do nothing. Yeah.
Well, that's fine, you can accuse me all you want, but
I'm not
the
accusing
process is that we were dealing with those people, and we had 91 people who were not represented by lawyers, and we told you the last time we were here, we were dealing with those people first, and now it's the rest of them. I don't know, now it's the rest of the people who are we're now putting in line those people who are represented by lawyers. That's the process we set up, and that's the process we're following. And you can talk to me after, you can do it now. If whoever your lawyer is, I've talked with 3 lawyers, only 3 lawyers who represent individuals, and we've got them on the list to call and set up appointments. I told you a little while ago, I don't know if you're one of the 3, and I'll talk with you afterwards, but I mean, we had 3 people who were supposed to be called this week to set up appointments. I'm not calling to set up the appointments, the adjuster and the appraisers are. So if you'll give me your name afterwards, we'll make sure they call you tomorrow and get your appointment set up.
And I think just the way y'all went about this, I think it was a little different than what should have been done. I agree with these people right here who have camp owners, they need to be compensated for their land because they do own those properties. But I don't live at my home some of the time, I live there all of the time. Not no more since August 3rd. You have to understand our frustration in this. We have enough, we have been through it all. It is time to do something. We have enough. Our children are suffering. We have enough. You know,
And I agree, it's time to understand these gentlemen, and I'm just giving you from an attorney's perspective. There are restrictions against him talking to clients directly without the attorney present or without their knowledge. So if you come to him and ask him for advice specifically, and you have an attorney, he knows you have an attorney, he shouldn't be talking to you without the attorney present. So to that extent, that's why if your attorney's contacted him and you try to talk to him after about the case, he probably may say, get in touch with your attorney, have your attorney call. And that's proper protocol. I'm just giving you that heads up. But is there any other questions, Mr. Myers, on this? We hope, let me tell you something. We hope that they go forward with fair and reasonable buyouts or compensation packages. We met with these folks at the governor's mansion. We hope they're fair with you. We hope, and like the governor said, the proof is in the pudding. We hope it comes to some resolution for those of you that want to relocate. For those of you who don't, that some resolution is made at some point in time. With regards to all of this, I'm going to address the science and the Blue River Commission again. You can see what we've been dealing with for 277 days. You can see a lot of the skepticism and a lot of distrust between the residents, the parish, and the entity in Texas Prime. We've always said we felt that, we're doing flyovers now 277 days. This technology was available 277 days ago. This stuff could have been done. We feel that there's been a lack of immediacy or urgency to address this situation. I'm just giving you our historical issues. Our hope to you is, as Mr. Gary said, how do we know the data you're getting given is accurate and legitimate? There's a lot of skepticism here. We ask you and implore you to look at the data honestly and intelligently and give us an honest, independent assessment of what you see. These folks Mr. Myers has said, they had 4 lawsuits filed against them. These people are talking about prescription dates or potential lawsuits they may have to file against the company. They have something at stake here to protect their company's assets. We ask you as assistants from the public's perspective, from the parish's perspective, from the state's perspective, as protectors of our environment and protectors of our community, to please give us an honest assessment and evaluation of the data and tell us when it's safe, what's going on, and what needs to be done. That's what we ask you. We thank you for coming. We thank y'all for being here. We expect and hope and are anticipating a good response by your group. And we thank you for being here. Are there any other questions before we conclude?
Can we get you to recap again the process that if we get an offer that we don't think is fair, what is the process?
The question is to recap one more time, what's the process to do if you're a homeowner who's had an offer made to you and you don't think it's reasonable, what's the process to go from there with Texas Prime without an attorney?
You can do it either 2 ways. You can get in touch with Will or one of the people who is on site and make a counter offer, or if you think that, say for example, the appraisal, you think the appraisal may be off, you'll get a copy of it because it doesn't take into account something that you think it should. Get in touch with Will, he'll get in touch with us, we'll have a dialogue, and if we can't resolve it ourselves, if you want to go to a mediation with an independent mediator, we're willing to do that.
Who's going to pay for the mediator?
We will.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Marty, like that blue ribbon or whatever blue
Yes, ma'am.
commission that's going to be set up, is some kind of commission going to be set up to to make some laws out of this so other folks don't have to go through what we've been
Well,
through?
the question is, the Blue Ribbon Commissions evaluate this situation. Will there be some reports or suggested revisions for the laws that affect this type of activity? Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I know our state representative, Karen Saint-Germain, has been working diligently on doing something with that. I know there's a Senator Mills from New Iberia, is it? And Senator Rick Ward, but I think the Mills is associated with the New Iberia area that's having to deal with the same thing, and they are. So what I would do is encourage you to communicate with Karen, or if Karen wants to come forward, just give a brief comment as to what they're fighting and going through in Baton Rouge with the legislature. And she's been diligently following this the whole time. She and Rick Ward, and I think Senator Mills from New Iberia.
Actually, he's from St. Martinville, but he has all of New Iberia. I'm going to make this short, because you all know how to find me if you want to ask questions. Today, Senator Rick Ward's bill got out of Senate committee. The only amendments that were put on were the ones that we had to address some issues with. We are not taking any hostages on this, on these regulations and these laws. We have had the full cooperation of DNR to help us make the strictest and the only ones in the United States that are going to be this strict. We have people calling us now to model our legislation. The saddest part, it's because of you all and what you've been going through. Also, I want to let you know that my bills come up on the floor tomorrow. I don't see any problems with tomorrow on the floor because of your testimonies and because of your participation in the process. There's not a member of the House that doesn't know what's going on or that doesn't ask me every day. They're on your side. On the Senate side, when we get into the Senate side, we've been working very hard. But if you all know anybody, because we're getting a hint that there may be an amendment on the Senate side, and if you don't know how to contact the senator, I would be happy to set you up. To let them know that we want nothing added to this legislation, nothing to take away what we're going to put in place to make sure we have things like, if and hopefully never, have things like this that happen again, that they don't have to go through all the things we have had to for the first time. And I think, I know I've been quiet most of the time. I wish I was a percentage of, I had the percentage of intelligence of just one of these people that sit here in front all the time. Not only the Blue Ribbon Commission, but the guys that have been here. But I can tell you what I do have. I do have your heart in my mind. Every day, every time I talk about it. So to help me, and Ms. Wilma, thank you, and the Lean group, and they have been diligently in our support on our side. So for your knowledge, as we go forward, this is what I ask. Don't stop contacting people. Don't stop speaking to the press. We need to make sure that nothing happens to this legislation that you don't like. Because if you don't like it, we don't like it. Marty and Henry have spent hours, poor John Boudreaux, and months through all of this, working out this legislation so that when they need to collect their money, so that we can safely take care of y'all in the future for any other event, they have not stopped. The state is still yet to be paid, as far as I know. They have not stopped 1 second. But take the advice of the people who know when it comes to your own individual needs, whether you're staying or whether you're leaving. Do not get exhausted yet. Do not back up. Stand for what you believe you deserve as a family. Because I can't say what my neighbor's going to do, but I can damn well say what I would do.
Thank you, Karen. It's been a long night. We had a lot of information, and there's a lot more work left to do. We look forward to Dr. Marlin and Dr. Pettit and Dr. Ecox and the Blue Ribbon Commission getting the 3D seismic data and continuing your work and your analysis. And we look forward to your original report and follow reports. Thank you all for coming. That'll conclude the public meeting, and we'll be in touch.